This is the foundation. Stories from people who build things, products, services, businesses, how they started, what they're doing now, and where they're going.
Nick, how are you today?
Doing great. Great to see you. Looking forward to the conversation.
I appreciate you talking with me today. Before I get started asking the foundation of Polko, I want to just kind of read your CV, so to speak,
Oh
because it's
no.
pretty darn impressive.
Oh
Dr.
no.
Nick Mastronardi, Polko's co-founder and CEO, is a double major from the University of Notre Dame. You have a PhD in economics from the University of Texas. You're an economics professor at the Air Force Academy for 5 years, an economic policy holder for the Pentagon, and you have been on the President's Council of Economic Advisors. So before I ask that question, that's a lot of achievement. Do you think achievers and overachievers are nurture or nature, or is it a little combination of both?
I think it's a little bit of both, probably mostly nurture. Being an educator, you hope it's nurture a little bit, but I used to like challenging people and seeing what they could rise to. And I was just fortunate that I had some people really challenge me in some areas and tried my best to rise to the occasion for them.
Well, as is the name of this conversation, the foundation, I'd love to hear your definition, your foundation of POCO.
Yeah. It's funny. So yeah, foundation and building things took different forms along the way, but always loved tech and data. And that was where I was most comfortable building things. So early in the Air Force, I mean, literally, we were building algorithms for the guidance sections of missiles. That was before I got into economics. And then in grad school, what we used to build, to get the PhD in economics, you had to write three contributions to the body of knowledge and like these academic research papers. So like that was the product that I was producing. And that's kind of the product of academia, right? Is these papers and publications. And a little while at Amazon, and I was writing code that helped price strategic items. But I think the motivation for Polka was myself and co-founders, we knew the public sector. We had literally sworn our lives to it. We're passionate about it. And then went to these private sector tech organizations and saw how well that they were doing. And then we wanted to build something and bring that back to help the public sector gather better data from their constituents, kind of hit on this wisdom of crowds or collective intelligence, because cities were being like disproportionately influenced by the vocal few. So if we could build a platform for cities to hear more from their residents, rather those who are holding control, and then use that data and other data to make great decisions, we thought we could do something great. So kind of like what we were focused on building went from these different data or physical hardware with the Air Force to building a software platform for cities. And yeah, just very fortunate to have had some success with that.
What was your epiphany, if that's even the right word, for POCO in regards to community engagement?
I try to be a pretty positive person. I'm motivated by doing good. I hate to hear people upset. And I just was hearing so many people complain about the public sector and politics and governments and from both sides of the aisle. And I was like, rather than just everybody agreeing and complaining about stuff, like it's our government. What can we do? You got thoughts, ideas, positive There's okay, maybe there's no real good outlet for that. Everything was kind of vitriolic sound bites. And so let's actually build a platform designed to facilitate high quality public input and decision making on it. And that way we can be constructive instead of complaining.
I'd like to back up in regards to sort of the elevator speech of what POCO is, and I'm going to read from your website, and I welcome you to sort of illuminate or expand on that if you'd like. POCO is a powerful community engagement and data insights platform. So why don't you go ahead and explain what that is?
Yeah, really, there's kind of like two sub platforms of Polka. One is like this engagement side. And so that is helping governments engage with their constituents. Surveys, polls, how would you balance the budget simulations, prioritizations. So we have library of surveys and polls. We help build them. Then we help field them through multiple modes, emails and texts, and we even do mailers through we just try to help reach a broad swath of constituents, and then we show them the results. So those are like the three stages of an engagement platform: is the content, the outreach, and then understanding and utilizing the results. I kind of like the juicy ones, like Scottsdale water right issues and airport expansion like we had in my hometown. But the cities really like the boring vanilla, how satisfied are you with parks? How satisfied are you with law enforcement, with roads? And then they use that to look at variation across different parts of the city and older versus younger, and different ethnic groups and age groups. So anyway, they love that boring survey, and it helps them with their trends and their benchmark comparisons and these crosstabs. So we said, well, wait a minute, cities, we don't just have to provide you data from your boring survey results for comparison to help you do your operations. There's all this other data that nobody else was gathering and using. We went out and started gathering all these municipal performance databases together. So yeah, we have this engagement platform, but then we also have this out of the box performance measurement platform. So a city can see how they're doing in literally like 600 something different dimensions, their time trends, how that compares to their peer communities. So those are the two things we've really built, is this engagement platform and this really robust public sector performance.
When you work with cities, you mentioned that they already have existing data, probably languishing in a dustbin somewhere. So you've been able to sort of brush it off and refresh it in order to continue the conversations about the sustainability of the next steps.
Most of our work is helping them gather fresh data from their
Fresh
constituents.
data. Okay.
Yeah, so we're helping them literally reach out and field surveys and polls from their current residents. And then the other data that we combine that with are all of these federal data sources. There's a whole disparate of them: HUD's housing data, EPA, CDC public health, but they're all coded differently and have different. So it was been a lot of work to clean, append, combine all of those together. Sometimes cities will bring their data in and we'll work with them on that, but that's a little bit of a messy affair if they even have it.
So you say fresh data, and I'm going to go back technologically to the time when a phone didn't have a phone answering machine and somebody would pick it up and they would be asked a question and they would offer an opinion. As that has changed over the years, how do you collect the data now with a population that's reticent to take surveys?
Yeah, there's still a time and place for the phone surveys, but most of it is distributed text, email. Sometimes we do postcards with QR codes and short URLs, social media outreach. I mean, it's every different pocket of the demography is reached a different way. You kind of got to know your portfolio of outreach channels for each of the different demographic pockets.
That's a pretty good way of putting it because everybody responds in different fashions to being prospected, if that's even a good word.
Yeah.
As a graphic designer who began many years ago and is very linear in a very continually non-linear way, I did like, again, on your website, you say you engage, you understand, and improved. And I like those three in that sequence. I think one of the things that I wonder about is statistics that are given to people. Analytics is the hardest part, the improvement, because I think once somebody engages an organization to give them data, I would wonder that part of the problem is how do you continually improve? Why don't you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, we do want to drive improvement, and it's not trivial to do. I think where we are in the journey when we work with a city is sometimes most cities have not been doing data-driven decision making really at all. So it's like, let's just measure our baseline, see where we are, set some goals, compare that with where other cities are doing. And that can be humbling to start with. So we do spend a lot of time, I'm just thinking in analytics, like descriptive analytics, making sure we know the baseline, crosstabs, some trends that they're on. Then where are they going? Is their trend even in the right direction? And then last is, what are the recommendations that we could make for prescriptive recommendations for causal impact. And we aim to get there with cities. But I would say that's not been the bulk of our work. We're excited to do it. That's what my training in economics and econometrics is all about, being able to confidently make those prescriptive recommendations. But right now, it's just helping many of them get leveled up to having a confident understanding of their baseline there. So once you have that baseline, you absolutely can start to measure and your trend and correlate that with the things that you've done and if it helps or not. And so I have ideas on things that they can do in time, and we're happy to get into that. But really, the big thing is just, what gets measured gets fixed, and we want to make sure the important things are getting measured.
Well, how was it measured before? Are we talking intuition and just policyholders or elected officials just presuming that their finger on the pulse of their community is what they're engaging with? Because I think where
Unfortunately,
we have
yeah. Yeah, I
really?
think implicitly it's re-elections for council members. But yeah, I just like, honestly, this was a big thing recently. GFOA is the Government Finance Officers Association, kind of
Mhm.
oversees all the budget, all the folks work in the budget, probably the most important policy decision of the city. And it used to be, for the most part, what they call incremental budgeting. Take last year's, add 3 or 4%. Let's do the things that seem to be working. But things are really changing. Resident constituents are demanding more transparency and accountability on what's going on. And there's no excuse not to, with all the data and communication tools that exist. And so recently, GFOA issued new guidance breaking a 20-year precedent and says, as you do budgeting now, cities, that we feel it's incumbent upon you to engage your constituents in the process, gather their input, see what's important to them. That builds trust. And that trust helps you be successful in future referendums and ballot initiatives. And the other big initiative from GFOA was we have to use data. So just that data had not really been part, and those two go really well together. And it actually fits. It kind of gives a really good tailwind to what we've been recognizing as a problem, been working on for a while.
Because many people still implicitly go by their gut and they're not really sure that what's being told to them is accurate. You probably still have to fight against a population that is a little suspicious.
Yeah. There's always going to be skeptics, but I think the status quo right now is, if you're a city manager or a leader of a city, you're going to have a vocal person at your community trying to exercise influence. And if you have not been deliberate or systematic in gathering your data and setting your strategic plan, you're going to feel vulnerable to their manipulation. But what gives you strength is, alternatively, you go, hey, thank you very much for your input. We've also heard from thousands of other constituents across the community, comprising a statistically significant and representative sample at a 95% confidence level, 5% margin of error. We've built a strategic plan to pursue the city's initiatives. And this is something that we'll consider in the time. But in the meantime, we're very focused on making marked progress towards the city's defined goal. And I think that gives them a little bit of the insulation so they don't find themselves whiplash, no progress, and a bunch of thrash. They can continue to march ahead towards their stated goal for the year.
Give me a good win that you've had lately.
Man, well, there's a ton of those almost every day. I mean, we're just working on,
You can list them all if you'd like.
yeah, they're pretty fun. I mean, we're working with Florida beach communities or Bar Harbor on their short-term rentals, and Rochester, Minnesota, and their downtown trail system along the river. I mean, Oshkosh, Wisconsin is just working on ATVs in downtown street, and Needham, Massachusetts, on some of their large home remodel standards. And there's just interesting things happening everywhere. One of the ones, I'll give you one win, though, that I'm especially proud of. We have a lot of aging seniors, and it's changing public health and senior services, public goods in that area. And so we've worked with 8 different state agencies over the years, and just had a great call with the state of Montana last night. And so they're very interested not only in continuing to field the surveys and understand the data and the evolving needs and wants of the seniors across Montana, but some of our new additional data work they're really interested in, and then utilization of our secure AI on top of that to help them figure out and apply for grants and write new reports and evaluations and distill these troves of data very efficiently. So it's always exciting when clients, customers that we work with are equally as excited about pushing the frontier of tech innovation with us like that.
AI, it's inevitable. It's here. Half the world doesn't want to talk about it anymore, and it's fearful, and the other half is excited about it. How is AI helping Polko?
We use it internally just because we have so much data, we have so much marketing, things that we need to do, and there's no way that we could do it with the size of our team if it weren't for AI. But we're also fielding a slew of AI agents to cities and counties and school districts to help them in their own operations. And it's a huge gap. Cities and finance in particular, public finance has struggled to pay commensurate with private sector finance. And that means there's a real talent gap. A lot of cities who just don't even have what they need for financial forecasting and budgeting. And yeah, we're really excited not only to use AI internally, but to take all the insights and deliver them and the capabilities to do things like financial forecasting to the cities who don't have this and need to be doing it.
Tell me a little bit about how you work with cities that say, thank you very much, we got it from here, versus others that say, we need continued help as we improve.
Some of them are really good processes, so we'll just field a survey with them, and they have a good internal strategic planning. And I think of everything in this like annual cycle for a city where they gather data, use it to set their goals, execute their programs. And so in some of those cities, just helping field the survey is sufficient. They usually don't have a bunch of PhD data scientists, economists, and survey scientists on. So like that's the one place that we kind of would plug in. But other cities, especially the smaller ones and ones having a lot of growth, don't have the in-house capacity to do all of those things. And so that's kind
Right.
of where we're not just fueling the survey, but almost like you mentioned on the managing the content inside. I think with AI especially, we're starting to live in a world of extreme verticalization and specialization. And so you kind of have to know what's your lane and become an expert at it and use AI before you find yourself like too horizontal and generalized in AI using you in some sense, I think is the question of the day.
Well, that might be a good segue to when you talk about verticality, is again, as I look on your website, you've got benchmark surveys, you've got resident engagements, you've got simulation tools. We talked about AI solutions, and it's obvious there's data and dashboards, but you also promote expertise and partnerships. So talk about any of those verticalities that you are especially proud of and perhaps live in that sandbox a little bit more than others.
Yeah. Well, the bulk of our work today has been these surveys. I think we're the largest in the country in fielding these surveys. So, and there's a ton of information out there, but one of the ones that's up and coming is we actually acquired a firm in 2022 or 2023 called Balancing Act. And they're the ones who do these budget simulations. And it has really introduced us. Most of our buyers, the person at the city fielding the survey and using the survey in their strategic plans is the city managers, the CEO basically of the city, the senior full-time
Right.
executive. But working with the budget simulation has introduced us to even further specialization within the city, just in the budget finance persona as they're doing that actual budget. So it's a great tool. We've been working over the years to integrate it and pair it with all of our other data. But cities are really starting to feel a fiscal crunch right now. And that's a very hot tool. And especially for school districts are really feeling the fiscal crunch. And so now over these last couple of weeks, I think we had 4 school districts come in that like, we need to use the budget simulation tool. So that's just one area that we're excited about and start marketing and branding better and pushing out there. But you never know on a given day, right? It's a world where detail matters. There's different buyers in different regions and different size cities, and making sure that you're prepared to match them with the right product at the right time through the right channel.
How do you find your customer?
We're trying to get better at it every day. What I'm happy is we have a good reputation. A lot of them find us. I want to get better at helping them find us. So we're starting to do better social and case studies. And I think that's been something driving a lot of our inbounds. But I think the other thing that's been really helping is it's like 50% of search now is happening inside of AI. And I think that's just been for us, fantastic because we've been a small revenue team, like a small number of people on our revenue team, like almost no marketers. We have some product marketers who help us field some campaigns, but with AI search, it's no longer this get in front of everybody all the time. Our website has been very productive in helping us surface to the top of AI search. Yeah, so we've just been doing very well there.
That's good. Well, I think one of the things about SEO search and AI search and everything is the presumption that we might know the words that people are using in order to find your services and your expertise. I don't think that's giving away the secret, but
Nope.
what would I do if I was a city manager to even search for Poco's expertise?
Yeah, I think the city manager language that we try to really resonate on is performance measurement and civic engagement communications. But one of the things that I love about AI search is I think it cuts through the noise and fluffy terms pretty well, that, the traditional
Mm.
kind of marketing website. And it helps to, it really, if you're willing to be specific about it, which we're proud to be because a lot of our work, like we take a lot of pride in it and have satisfied customers from it, then I think that's one of the things that helps you succeed in the AI search world. It's like, I think much more authentic and you can be much more specific um, than general. So I don't know. Of all the downsides of AI, that's one I've been very happy with.
What should I have asked you, or what would you like to say in closing?
Let's see. I mean, there's a lot of questions I would like to ask you that I don't feel like we've got it figured out, right? You get started building a business, you want the product, and then you got to focus on the sales, and then hopefully your brand kind of reflects a little bit of what you've been trying to do. But yeah, I think you've got to be a lot more deliberate on the brand. And ours is tricky too, because we have this brand that we need to communicate to cities. We try to make it easy, but also this is really important stuff. And that's a lot to weave together. And then Polka also helps them interface with the constituents. We have this constituent facing component of our brand. And so building the brand foundationally for the company is really important and difficult to do. So I don't want to presume like that we've done that well, but it's a journey. We've tried to just be authentic to it, which ultimately is probably the right thing. That's our biggest challenge kind of going forward is now that we got a great product as we start to scale, is there a way to kind of bring that authenticity at scale is what we're grappling with.
How often do you study your own data that tells you about your efficacy?
The data then that we study about ourselves is over our prior efforts. And it doesn't always yield the insight for sometimes what I think might be like the sea change move, right? It can yield insights into like small differences. Yeah. So, and I think as much as we espouse and love data, sometimes the big shifts have to be got. That's what we're grappling with is not only the incremental changes, but to make the big ones where when we don't have the data to justify it, give us the confidence. That's tough. You got to put yourself out there.
Well, if you talk about that data being reactive or historically, that's the whole promise of predictive analytics.
Those predictive can get like the confidence bands can get really wide as you get far out of where most of your sample points have been. And I
Oh,
think so that's kind of where we are is, yeah, we feel confident with the predictions close to around what we've done historically. But when you do something very different than what we've done, and so I always ask myself, am I just being a little too crazy here? So, but yeah, it's a kind of out of sample prediction confidence that things get tricky around.
well, I predict your continued
Hmm.
success, Nick. I appreciate your time today.
Yeah, fun conversation. Thanks for having me on.
The Foundation is produced by Studio Conover and edited by Brett Euler. Studio Conover is a strategic marketing design firm for manufacturers of building products. Visit studioconover.com for more information.